My name is Rihards Galums. I'm an organizer of a couple of technology meetups here in Riga. And shortly about James, so probably we could start, since we are not very lot of folks here, so we could start with personal introductions and say, represent yourself, who you are, what you're doing in very short form. Then probably I'll skip through slides about history and background of not me, the group of Latvian automotive history, because there's a couple of guys who were here last time for last meetup. And then we have a featured events, news, and then two speakers. First will be Anton, who will share his experience of his driving test Model S in Latvia. I'm pretty interested in that because we get funny and nice videos how test is performing in California, probably in Norway, but I don't have any so much information about how those tests are doing here in Latvia, so probably Anton will tell us. And second speaker will be Christoph Dams from Davio, and he will share the perspective of automotive industry here in Latvia. So Hans Matrix didn't appear here today because I asked Mr. Osmans to bring somebody here in order to tell about what is the process to build some sort of automotive electronic hardware here in Latvia, but probably we'll manage to be next time somebody from Hans Matrix. So probably a very short way, who am I, what I'm doing generally, what's relevant to others, and what's my automotive, I don't know, cars experience, interest, probably starting from you.
Hi everybody, I'm Kaspers, I'm from Automotive, which is Airbnb for cars. We are the biggest peer-to-peer car rental platform in Baltics, in Estonia, Latvia, and Finland. And yeah, I just came here to hear about experiences and just meet some new people.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah. Hi. My name is also Kasper. Like, for easier introduction, I'm working with other Kaspers with Automotive, building this place to share cars. Yeah, he said all about the numbers in Baltics. Well, I'm here just to get a feeling what Latvia is like, interested in automotive. My experience, more or less, so I have crashed some cars, so not so good recently, but planning not to do so much in the future.
Right.
So, hi, my name is Anna. I'm the third member of the Automotive team, so also, yeah, thankfully I'm not called customers. So yeah, I'm also interested in cars to hear something what's new in the field. So.
May I ask how much of you are here today?
Three.
Okay. What is the name of the URL?
This one, Auto Levy.
Yeah. Auto Levy.
Alright, we'll check later.
Yeah.
Okay, who's you?
So hi, my name is Ingus. I'm just interested in programming challenges in my spare time, and I think this field has plenty of them.
Cool.
Hi everyone, my name is Alexanders. Actually, I have nothing to do with cars. I work in IT field, sell banking and finance softwares. What I'm doing here, I'm interested in new technologies in many fields, so I pretty much came here to learn about what's going on in this unusual, I should say, industry for Latvia. What's going on in Latvia in this industry.
Okay.
My name is Igors and I'm representing FC Racing Club Riga. And my interests here are just knowing something new about automatic cars and etc.
Okay.
Good evening, my name is Christoph. I'm from Drivio. We build racing cars, we go racing them, and I will share my visions and ideas of how automotive industry can develop in Latvia.
Hi, my name is Artis. Currently I'm IT consultant freelancer. Why I'm here? Probably because last 7 years some of my activities were related to automated cooperative driving and also so-called car orienteering events, including as participators as organizers.
So you were some part of GCDC last night team, or?
Yes. If you remember Ingers from last event, we do some things together. But we are not from the same institution currently.
Okay. What you want?
My name is Antons. Do you know Darts company from Riga? Darts.
Darts.
Yeah. The guys who made the Cars for Dictator movie,
Yeah.
who sold for 1 million to Kim Kardashian and for another million to Kanye West. We are there, we're making their digital. And they're expanding now to US market and to China. But this is like why I happen to be here, because I happen to buy Tesla some time ago, so I will present it. And my daily work is at ScandiWeb. We code a lot of stuff for e-commerce and startups.
By the way, it's quite a big company for Latvia. It's very less known, but found out that it's huge for Latvia inside.
Yeah, we happen to be 120 people now.
Okay.
Hi, my name is Andres. We came here with Untitled for the first time. I'm working in the IT field and would like to listen to what's happening in the automotive field, what's new, just share experience.
Cool.
Hi, my name is Alex. I do nothing with cars, just interested in this thematic.
Okay.
My name is Viesturs. I'm overall automotive enthusiast, programmer, mostly web developer, and wannabe startup maker. So that's it.
Yeah, hi, my name is Andis. I'm from Cocoon Group Latvia. I'm working on a caravan project, a new type of caravan, and I'm here because I hope to find co-founders.
Okay. Right. So yeah, a few words about Wild Meetup. So we decided to start this meetup movement with technology and entrepreneurship meetup because of networking, to improve networking between Latvian some sort of developers, engineers, and entrepreneurs, in order to improve peer-to-peer learning, open innovation, startup subculture, idea sharing, and other stuff. So improve public speaking, English skills, and merge technology and entrepreneurship guys together. And it's important because of international recognition of meetup.com from outside that Riga is getting some more and more active in startup and technology things. And next time, bring your friends, project speakers. We're quite open, as we see that the automotive industry probably not very developed here in Latvia, and we don't have, I don't know, 100 people here. So, but yeah, we're growing, hopefully. So there's a couple of other interesting meetup groups we are running under this meetup called Latvian Technology Entrepreneurship Meetup Network. Other groups are drones, UI UX, mobile applications, automotive, which is this one, blockchain, or Bitcoin, startup, big data, biotech, and those 8 groups are events are happening monthly, so all of them happening here in the mill, and exact dates you can find on meetup.com. So last time I prepared this automotive history slides in Latvia, probably to warm up a bit about what Kristaps is going to tell. So last time I started thinking what's going on in Latvia in this automotive thing. So yeah, there's a bright history behind us. First was this Russo-Bau thing, then there's one of the first Krasniņš automobile factory, which is actually, as far as I know, there's at one in restoration right now somewhere in Riga. So
No, we are doing.
yeah. So probably all of you will tell about that thing. So then we have this Ford Virox produced cars in Riga during the Second World War. RAF, Galga, those minivans, or how you call them. This is a very interesting picture. I don't know how this RAF made it to Silicon Valley and Golden Gate Bridge, but at least we could show up our Estonian friends that Latvian automotive history have reached some sort of roots in Silicon Valley. Yeah. So, and this is last time I asked guys from Lea to show up what is the existing situation with all manufacturing centers in Latvia with automotive industry. There's surprisingly, there's a lot of things that are going on because of of which I actually didn't know before. And there's, okay, you probably know this ammo plant in Jelgava. It's quite big. I don't know how good they're doing right now because of the crisis and other stuff. But there's a lot of machinery things. One company called Bush's Shoreline Baltics. I even don't know where they're located. This is very interesting slides. Probably everybody knows about the famous place in Latvia called Ogresgals, which is actually it's very interesting that this Ogresgals appearing in Pikes Peak competition, this car row, because Latvia not Ogresgals. It's a lot of places like Tokyo and Miami. So yeah, and Chris probably will tell what OSA is doing, and this is probably the project you're, as far as I understood, the same you're talking about. So yeah, this is very luxury, interesting cars, and there's a lot of small manufacturing going on. So this scan tooling, which is producing some sort of plastic things for automotive industry. I don't know where they're located or what exactly they're doing. Action Cable is doing something, outsourced equipment production for automotive industry as well. And Hans Matrix, Weekend Marketing, Goldberg is making some sort of automotive electronic devices. So it's probably could be interesting to talk with them how to develop those electronic automotive devices here in the region of Glass and Tel. And there's Ziegler Machine Bull. Those guys are in Daugavpils, making different electrical components of cars. And there's a couple of other, what I could call automotive industries. There's a lot of things that are going with data and GPS interaction, OBD2 information traction out of the car. And the most notable are Mapon, which is Draugen Group, Sky Message Intelligent Systems company, and Autonomous, you probably know Skyway. And interesting, last time speaker was this Blue Shock Race, guys who made electrical race go-karts in Nepal. And they're operating this go-kart halls here in Super Balls. So there's a Tesla Latvia community, some sort of, I don't know, there's almost 800 people like this page, so probably there's traction for that. And probably you should, if you're interested on the news from Tesla community here in Latvia, probably it's a good resource. So there's future domains I picked out. So this is a GPU conference, NVIDIA's GPU conference, Silicon Valley. I used to be 2 times previous year. So they are very strongly oriented on cars in 2 ways: in self-driving cars and in infographics and displays using the GPUs and other stuff. So if you kind of get an opportunity, this conference is happening in April 18 or something. So it's really good chance to be there. Silicon Valley side was there. There's interesting hackathon going on. Garage 48 is a very good place to start your business. In this time, in April, will be health tech-oriented hackathon in new Latvian University building. And we're launching Latvian Startup Association. So it's an association caring about startup ecosystem building, lobbying for the government and developing kind of things. And we will get a large event in March 9 in Nordic Clubhouse, which is on the regular in his tech hub. And yeah, probably you already know that I'm a part of this nice project. I initiated this idea some three months ago, and the project name is Pilot, a company which is not created, called Pilot Automotive Labs, and we're looking for funding now right now. And the idea is to build self-driving plug-in for any car. And in this case, I'm getting inspiration from NVIDIA things they're doing about artificial brain creation for cars and deep neural network training. And this project comprises Pilot plug-in adapter for any car, which is actually holding the whole necessary sensors on the roof of any car. I mean, HD cameras and radar FLIDARs and other stuff. And self-driving application, which is it should be ordinary Android tablet, connection to the card for the OBD and canvas. So this picture is fairly prototypes. This is a picture we made for visualization self-driving application for car, and this is quite a big problem because we stuck on that because there's not a lot of cars with self-driving user interface. We don't know how it exactly seems Google Cupcake car inside. There's no pictures about the user interface there. So there's a couple of things which is taken from the Tesla user interface. Probably you can recognize this small car. Actually, we just copy and paste out. But the functionality of such kind of screen, I'm just very curious about how Tesla is doing that. Probably those will be answer questions for the answer, because I understood from videos it's very nice working on freeways or highways or autobahns, but I don't know how it's working in a city, for example. And it's possible to drive from point A to point B only on autopilot. Okay, so probably about a little bit more, because I'm curious about also technology about these cameras and radars and how they recognize our street marks or non-existing road marking, let's say, or bad weather. But this is our first iteration of how this self-driving car interface should look like. This is how to connect those cars with the network. So I've been to learn about this project. So we're still in the development stage, looking for funding and looking for team members able to carry out this project. The sponsors: Rikas University, represented by me, Foundation Caring About Technology and Entrepreneurship Education. Microsoft is sponsoring our group, so if you're interested for your startup to get this Azure cloud service for free, just drop me an email so we can arrange it. And Atom is providing financial support for the group so we could bring in pizza, beer, and other stuff. And check out Labs of Latvia. There's interesting stuff for Latvian startup and technology news. So we're close to speakers, so I'd like to give the floor to Anthony. So in a free way, just tell your experience, how it is with your Tesla over here in Latvia.
Hello, once more. I'll start with how did it happen, and I will provide some context. I'm 35 years old. I never had a car before Tesla, and I don't still have a driver license. The same as Darth's owner. He's selling expensive cars, but he doesn't have a car, and he doesn't have a driving license. I have study permit, and I have a driver who sits nearby, so I can drive. This summer, like summer of 2015, I decided, okay, for some reason I wanted to buy a car. So I had my 20, 30, somehow €1,000, so I can afford something. So I started to look in mobile E. And then one of the emails from Product Hunt announced that the top recommended book is Elon Musk book. So I sent it to our office manager to buy like some 5 books for our company library. And I picked up one, and the 5 pages I read from the book was about Tesla. And I was amazed by the non-compromise design that they did, like how they were fighting with the battery, where they wanted to be, not in the place where it used to be before, and how kind of revolutionary they were in terms of software upgrades, that you buy something and it's kind of evolving together with you and together with them for free. And actually the last update was just this night. So far I got 3 updates. And many other nice features that kind of my dream cars that I had, they started to smell bad with gasoline. But it was really expensive, even the cheapest version, the one that drives kind of slowly, only 5.4 seconds to 100 kilometers. But somehow it was easy to buy it because on site you just go to Tesla Europe and you select your car and pay €2,000. So €2,000 was not a problem, so I did it. And I thought, okay, I will figure out the rest somehow. And I got some emails from Tesla, nice, valued customer, okay, we will inform you. The car was delayed, and the Tesla is very good in some points, but it's pretty bad in logistics. I still didn't get my winter tires, so I had to buy something in Latvia. they recommended some models, but there were only 2 tires in Latvia, and then it became even worse, it became just 1. So I bought something, and they still didn't even refund me the money, and they didn't even send the metal discs. So, okay, just send me the disc, okay, we'll send it. And the chargers, adapters for CHAdeMO, it also took 2 months to send, and they reply emails for about 2 weeks. So you kind of expect extremely great customer service from this great product company, but it's not great. Anyway, I got the car in November, 21st of November, with the help of Kurbats company. They bring the cars from Netherlands, and it's also already pre-charged, so you can just sit and drive. So I registered in CSDD and started to drive. And the biggest issue was the charger, that I didn't have a charger. So the only thing I could charge was just 220 volts. So I had to pretty fast build a different charger, and it should be a specialty electricity that you can have in your private house or in some industrial building. So you can charge like 50 kilometers per hour. I will just check my notes. Yeah, so my first reality check was charging because there was 20 kilometers. And I don't have any charger. Yeah, I was just routinely driving it from home to work. Nothing special. It's a same car, just doesn't make any noise. Then a lady bumped into my car, and I figured out that it's. So I got insurance, about 1,000 euro for this, but I still didn't change anything because I'm afraid they will, because they have to paint everything, like left part of your car, and I'm afraid they will do it bad. So I will have different colors, so I still go with the bump, because otherwise I have to go to Stockholm to kind of recommend the Tesla, to Stockholm or to Helsinki to recommend the Tesla car service. About autonomous stuff, it only drives, it indeed can drive, self-drive on a Riga-Jurmala highway that I pass every day, but that's pretty much everything it can do. If you can show this your interface, I'll just make some parallels with this. Especially, Tesla is quite similar to you.
Yeah, because
so when they show these blue lines, it means that they recognize that it is a road. And when we have winter, they do not recognize that we have a road. So when it's snowing, you just have to drive yourself. And if it is city road, and they recognize this blue stuff by marking. So in the city, you don't have marking, you cannot self-drive. It's only for nicely marked highways. And still, it behaves a bit unpredictably on some turns. So sometimes I just have to brake fast to avoid the collision. A nice feature is smart cruise control. So it indeed can follow the car in front of you, and it's nice in traffic jams, so you don't need to do anything. Theoretically, you can read a newspaper, and it will take you through the traffic jam.
you should steer, by the way.
It can follow. Well, our traffic jams, like they're normally like I was only in straight traffic jams so far. Then you just steer, because it doesn't observe the traffic lights. So if the guy in front of you is like it's blinking yellow and he's like passing, then the test also maybe it will be red already. So, but it's kind of reality. So it's indeed happens. And yes, there are some. So you really. In Tesla, you cannot, at least in Tesla driving in Latvia, you cannot. It's kind of fun feature you can show to your friends, but I personally, I never use it. Driver uses cruise control.
But it's a separate thing from autopilot, let's say.
They engaged in a separate combination of handles. You do not even engage it through the touch screen. It's engaged on the steering wheel.
How you switch on this autopilot? It's show up that there's some sort of sign that it's possible. This autopilot is available, so you could press the button.
Well, it's like the Tesla user interface is like what you have in front of your steering wheel is something like this. And then on the right hand side you have this big double iPad, something. And you can engage autopilot if a Tesla shows picture like this with blue lines.
As soon as it will recognize street marks.
Then you just kind of pull the handle 2 times and then bing, some sign, and then the wheel, like the steering wheel, will start moving. So it mimics your movements, so the pedal, like the brake, will go.
But it's okay, but technically it's possible to change lines automatically, the right lines?
It's you can change the lines if you pull the this handle to make this blinking left or blinking right, and then Tesla would say, okay, can we go there? Okay, we can. Then we'll change the lines.
Okay.
And
not automatically. It's a
No. If you put a set speed of say 60 or 90, and the guy in front of you is doing like 60, Tesla will do 60, unless you put this thing left to right. And it's not that, okay, you put 90, so Tesla would do their best to ensure 90 in this traffic situation. So no, it doesn't work.
But in cities, let's say, even on good roads, city territory like Umaņ-Gatve, let's say, where you get new repaired roads with good markings, is it possible the sign is offering you that you could switch on?
Yes. Sometimes, no, it's also, I frequently, like, when I also share about Tesla, sometimes it's working, and sometimes even Tesla allows you to put auto steering, maybe when your speed is low, when only one blue line is on. So when on the left, so then they will stick you to the left marking, and then they will say, okay, whatever is to the right, we don't care, we hold it.
So what about holding the wheel? Because there's some sort of firmware update that...
theoretically they have sensors in the driving wheel, and they will, if they are unsure about the situation, they will start slowing down, and they will tell that if you want to do something more, you have to grab the wheel. But in our reality, Tesla never warned us to grab the wheel. So when we were experimenting or driving with this, it was just driving.
It's like you're watching birds on the side and instantly switches off the autopilot and you just might crash, right?
No, it will slow down and like bang, 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 and put like red things.
If that happened quickly enough, probably wouldn't have time to slow down. Well, in a corner it just slows down, but it's too late to drive off. That could happen.
That could happen. Yeah, that's why I do not rely on it. Like I don't check my email. Like even so, I always I'm IT guy. I always with my smartphone. I don't read my emails. Like I use the car driving as a way to relax from work. So I'm driving it. So I like the security features that are in Tesla. They have this HD camera that recognizes the only speed limits so far. So if it's 50, 70 or 90, it shows you, and then it also, with the last update, it doesn't allow you to do cruise control more than that. you can do it manually, but cruise control will not work. And what else?
And what this autopilot does on a highway, let's say, how long it drives straight ahead? What is happening that's then the roads, let's say, dividing, or how it's deciding which direction you should drive? Because you didn't tell your target destination, for example.
It's not working on the basis of target destination. It's what they tell will be available in 5 years. You can tell your car from New York to drive to Los Angeles, and it will drive, but not nowadays. So I have only once been in such situation, and it was a straight road just turning to the left, and then Tesla for some, so like turning like 8 started to turn like 40 degrees, so I just stopped it and started to drive. So we didn't, because also there is a rule that you can engage all these automatic things only above 30 kilometers per hour, I guess. And this is speed I don't want to experiment with such questions. So I don't know what would happen.
Okay.
If it is the road and so it's fully autonomous, and then even if it's kind of roundabout, I would because like you have to experiment at certain speeds that I don't want to experiment.
And do you feel the self-learning experience that your autopilot is improving time to time?
No. It can also do auto park, parallel auto park, perpendicular auto park. We tried it, but we still park manually.
Because?
No, we just got used. Like I like to park, and the guy he just got used. But I don't know why. But it works. It works okay. It works neatly. It works in a way that whenever you go and you pass a spot that is good for parking, it will show on this display a P button, and then if you switch to rear, then on the kind of iPad-like stuff, it would appear, do you really want to park, or do you really want to, and then it will start parking. It has nice features that I like, is a lane departure warning. So it has HD camera, and even so it cannot recognize this blue stuff. It can recognize them when you start to depart. So maybe they still can recognize, but they're not sure, so they don't want to engage autopilot. But they warn you with a sound that you, like I'm a pretty young driver, so it was useful for me.
But it's working on regular models.
It works on any marking that is.
Yeah, but I mean, let's say road, single, let's say this part which is not repaired for 20 years. So.
If that marking not really new and shiny, but it's like faded.
Or even doesn't exist.
If it doesn't exist, then it will not work. If it's faded, it's still warning. So for some reason, they're reading it for lane departure warnings, but they are not treating it as a marking for autopilot. Let me check if I have something more in my notes. About range, because I was expecting 500 range, and then I called and asked why it's 350, not 500. And they told 500 is a scientific range that we can achieve. Like Volkswagen in test scenarios, but in our conditions or with our driving style, and driver is like 67-year-old man. He is not driving aggressively at all, and we have 2 kids, so we drive pretty slowly. With normal driving style in Latvia, it's like 350 kilometers
per one charge.
Yeah. We didn't actually see any sizable drop of energy when it got like to -20. So between like +5 when I got it in November and -20, there was very marginal effect, like less than maybe like 7%, like 20 kilometers per charge. So instead of 350, we might get like 330. And the only thing that you notice is the absence of regenerative braking. So because the battery should be somehow hot or whatever, but so because normally when you drive and you put the hand from the acceleration, it will brake immediately because they want to get this power into back in the battery. But with cold you cannot get it. That's probably the reason for this 20, and still you hit a bit more. But it's not something dramatic. It still works the same way as it is working with +5. But the range is like this. It's 330, 350. And for me it feels like absolutely not a problem. It's the same with an iPhone. Like I guess everybody charges your iPhone every night. No, if it lasts 2 days for you, not for me. So like the car is being charged, the iPhone is being charged, the computer is being charged every day. By night.
Get the bill?
The bill actually, I didn't have it at my notes, but the bill is very good because it's just €3 for 100 kilometers. So it's it follows the promise. So they promise to US guys that you will save like a lot with the business. So in our conditions, with our like standard Latvian Ergo connection, it's €3 per 100 kilometers.
what's the charging habits? You're charging in your private house outside the night, and then it's only the place where you're charging that, or using
we
public
are
points?
renting a house now, and luckily they had an additional strong line, and we are charging there every night. And in the city, it's very seldom when we are charging, because we normally don't need to charge within the day, because like 350 kilometers per day is like enough.
In office, probably electricity would be cheaper. Company electricity.
Like directly, you can park somewhere and just put in the normal outlet and get something there, but.
Is it possible to charge in this supermarket places like in malls and other stuff? Not good.
Like a lot of places offer 220 volts, but that's really marginal benefit. It's very slow, and we need current 3 hours, and it just loaded some 25 kilometers. There are some faster stuff near CSDD, but it's only one outlet, and there is normally some cars there just parked and no driver, so he went somewhere. And there is another one now in Karlsruhe in Volkswagen. There's Chademo and some other 3 types. It's pretty fast, it's 50 kilometers. There is another one on the beach, 36 line, it's 25 kilometers, Type 2 charger. But if you have something at home, I mean, if I would live in where I used to rent an apartment in Old City, I wouldn't have any idea where to charge. Then I would have to agree with our office landlord, can you provide me with a charger and put a meter there and just add this to our office bill? Because if you have private house, it's pretty easy. If you have enough electricity, because that's 3 lines of 15 amperes, so that's pretty. And fun fact about Tesla that it consumes about 200 watts per 1 kilometer. And if you go to a gym and go to this bicycle stuff, then 200 watts is what you can easily achieve just doing
pedaling.
Just pedaling. So it should be pretty energy saving. Let me check other stuff.
Right. And what about data transmission? So do you feel that Tesla tracking all the time? There's instant data connection?
No, I would expect something more like they would send some messages like, we feel that you need to check your brakes. I don't know.
But they're doing so?
No, well, I don't. We checked our brakes, they were fine, so maybe they will do it. They of course, they have Tesla app where you can see where the car is, how fast it's driving, what is the battery. You can flash lights or make a sound with a horn if you want, like make a hello to your family when you're abroad. Of course, really the thing we can respect Tesla is their touch screen controls, because they don't care what are the buttons. They can introduce a lot of new features instantly because they just need to reprogram a bit user interface. With the latest update, they also have free Spotify for you. It's unlimited internet machine-to-machine connection. I was born in '80s, so I don't trust in free stuff. So I called to Tesla asking, how will I top up? Because I feel that I'm already using internet too much. How should I top up? Because internet stopped. And so no, it's free and unlimited, at least for now, till we further announce. But it doesn't work. Okay, you have to restart your car. You have to reboot your car. So you have to press like a pedal and 2 other buttons on the steering wheel, and then it restarts. And once we were driving on Euromola highway, and this touch screen just went dark. We were like, should we maybe slow down a bit and park? But after 2 minutes, it's like...
It restarted?
It has restarted himself.
How fast it boots when you start it for the first time? Or when you restart?
Like when we rebooted, it's about, I think, from 30 seconds to 1 minute. So
you can drive already, like you get in and you drive,
I didn't
or
try.
You have to wait for some time and all the time before you start driving.
I think when you reboot, you can only do it when the car is in park, so you cannot actually drive. So you cannot reboot while you are driving. So I actually I don't know.
But if you happen to, because of some reason,
That it-
reboot while you're
yeah.
red light, then you would miss probably next to green because it's booting and you can't go on.
So it should be done in garage probably.
Yeah,
But it crashes, and I don't mean
I-
physical.
if it's some unexpected booting or like rebooting, then I have no idea what would happen. I have no idea what would happen with autopilot. No idea. I hope it will somehow.
But
Crash.
do you have feeling that you're driving a Linux computer, by the way, or
Linux?
yeah, they get Linux on both systems.
Linux? No, I never tried Linux.
Okay.
So that's why maybe I don't feel
That's
another.
automotive Linux or something
Yeah,
special
that's
stuff. So
Yeah, I think I'm pretty much done with what I wanted to share, but it feels like rather like iOS than Linux. So it's really responsive, really fast, pretty sleek, and
right.
boots fast.
How is it with Latvia? Do you suggest others to also buy Tesla or to buy it after some time?
Actually, one of the key reasons why I bought it, because we are an IT company and we are coding a lot, and we are kind of pushing our guys to code better, and we kind of push them to code better than others in the US. So I wanted to bring them Tesla, and many of our employees, they were driving Tesla on their own. They can just get it and drive. Because I wanted to use it as an investment in expanding horizons of our team. So I had pretty clear goal of why I spent more money than I wanted to spend, much more. And actually the least pleasant surprise was when I got a letter from tax authorities that I have to pay VAT. Because I was under the impression that I paid everything when I paid to Tesla. And then they told I have to pay from this price 21%.
There should be some sort of incentives to bring the price down because of electricity, the vehicle, under some European projects or something.
Maybe, but or you have to use some Urbanovich case and register to a company, or to make a company in Estonia and register it there, because Latvia is limiting the stuff. But I kind of didn't care about it before I got the message, and I would care maybe because it's really unexpected and pretty much like if the cheapest Tesla costs you 70,000, then you have to pay 15,000 more. When you already like, I've paid it, and
since you're a software company, did you try to think about cracking or hacking stuff?
No.
Too expensive?
No, I know, just I know somehow too busy. One thing about Latvia and Tesla is that now you can get all other electric cars. You can get a blue number, and you can drive on public lanes.
Yes. And park free of charge or not?
They kind of still have to sign it on municipal.
But project of
that's so far what you can get, I guess.
It's pretty good incentive. Park for free in the center of the ring.
If you buy an electric car,
Yeah, any electric car. Any
special numbers, not hybrids, because hybrids are not qualified for that.
So about the good old stuff, I should say, did you test the acceleration? Like how fast it accelerates to 100 kilometers per hour?
I tried to test, but I was a bit afraid, so I stopped testing it.
So what scared you?
The speed. Because I wasn't driving. Like I learned to drive when I was like 28, and I wasn't driving for like 7 years. So it feels good, but too scary. So I didn't explore it. I planned to go to a racing circuit. Hopefully there is a straight line and cover it with some rubber tires on the sides. Then I can try to like kick it fully and see what happens. But like the fastest is like a speed of free fall, so it's 1G. So it feels like in an amusement park, and you might land. Yeah, like one guy wrote, I feel I can become a statistics. So yeah, so it feels good, but I didn't even explore it like, to the full extent.
By the way, do we have two-wheel drives or four-wheel drives?
Four-wheel drives. When I was ordering it, they were like if you want two-wheel drive, it will come like 2 or 3 months later because I think they were finishing two-wheel drive production because they claim it's less efficient for the battery. If you have four wheels, they can somehow distribute the energy in a better way and get more range. And about the extras, the best extras that I bought was, of course, heated seats in the back. And
how big the Tesla community here in Latvia? How do you know other owners?
I have seen only 2 Teslas, black and white.
So you not have some kind of monthly meetings or not
no, there is this guy Mart.
Mitsuis. Actually, should be here.
Who has started Tesla community, and his friend has given me a referral code so I could save €1,000. And he knows some Tesla owners, but they are few, and I don't know. They don't get together.
Are they registered in Latvian or Estonian?
No, in Latvia. No, it's just registered to a private person. So I just went to CSDD and registered it, and then somehow it appeared to tax authorities, and they figured out that invoice doesn't feature VAT, and so I have to pay VAT here. Because I don't know actually why, because it's kind of value added, so you theoretically, like, if you're a company, you buy something, you sell, and you just pay it for the difference because you paid for what you sell, and then you discount it for what you have bought. So I theoretically have to sell it to recover it, but I cannot actually because I'm a private person. So it's just a good money for the government.
Any more questions for us?
Winter parking outside, inside.
Parking?
Yeah, parking for night, outside, inside, winter.
I don't have a garage, so it's just standing there under snow and rain. But
and it's fine.
Yeah, it's fine, and the charger is plugged in, so it seems pretty kind of heavy duty stuff. So it's survived so far one winter.
Okay. Any more questions?
How good does it heating in winter, like air or the windscreen when it's all frozen over and you just push button and how quick it does that?
The front window can be only heated, I think, by air. The rear, there are this traditional stuff, I think, like this.
But they don't. So they don't have that cool glass that heats itself, but with invisible light.
No,
whatever they're using.
No, actually, one good thing about Tesla I should also mention is their 24/7 customer support. They have very bad kind of customer support over email when they have to send something or refund you something. But when you have a question, you just call a number, and in November I still had to call Germany or Netherlands, but in I think January they already introduced Latvian number, so it doesn't even cost you anything. You just call and ask any question. Once we have this charge port, it stopped opening. So their suggestion was just take a knife and gently because they explained because there is a magnet and there is some dirt on it, and it may be a bit sticky dirt that you got there, but don't be afraid, but gently with a knife it will work. We did this and it worked.
Some high-tech stuff.
Yeah, and the expensive, like more expensive cars, they have a motor that will open this door. The least expensive, they just have a magnet that will easily release. And actually, even so, it seems like it's one Model S. It's very different. When I was watching some YouTube tutorials on how to charge your car and how to find this place because it's well hidden. And it's like a first question, like you have a car, you have to charge it, and you don't know where to put this stuff because it's all very smooth and you just put like that. And so some tutorials they show you something, and your car is different. And some other tutorials, different from the first tutorial, show you something, but they're still different from your car. So it's still kind of evolving. So it's the same car, but they're changing some stuff. So this customer service is real nice. They pick up the phone. So once I have to find out how to reboot the car, why internet has gone, or how to open that stuff, they politely ask you, and it feels really good that you don't need to worry about anything. You just call and they answer.
And what about the internet connection? They use 4G or?
They use some tele machine-to-machine internet connections. So and it shows 3G normally in a city coverage. It's pretty good. So you have a navigation there. You can stream from Spotify. You can you have internet browser with limited capabilities, so you cannot stream video, or you cannot. Some say JavaScript will not fire some advanced JavaScript. So it's pretty much like HTML, CSS stuff that you can use. But still, it's free.
Yeah. Any more questions? Okay. Thank you, Anna, for coming.
Sure.
So yeah, this was yours.
Once again. Yeah, I have not prepared like a formal presentation for tonight. Instead, I will use a couple of pictures. I've tried to pick pictures from places where I have actually been myself just to add some credibility to what I'm talking about. And another reason for using those pictures is because I want to keep my talk open. So if there are any questions, ideas you want to bring up as I talk, feel free to do so. We can hopefully focus more on what everybody is interested in. Thinking about a topic to talk about for tonight, I kind of wanted to keep it very general because the meetup group is new, and I think I hope it grows in the future, and I think we all have to find what is of interest to us. But first things first, we have to kind of look at the broader picture. And I chose to talk about vehicle manufacturing, and there are two very tricky questions that lie in these two words, vehicle manufacturing. First of all, what is a vehicle? Obviously, passenger cars are the most common vehicles being made, but buses, trucks, and street sweepers and probably go-karts are also vehicles. And all of them are manufactured in very different ways. And second thing, the manufacturing itself. I think I realized that I've made a very typical mistake by using this picture as an example of what vehicle manufacturing means. Because this is just an assembly plant. And there is so much more to vehicle manufacturing than just the assembly process. All the parts that go on the car or in the car at this stage have been manufactured most probably outside of the assembly plant. Lots of software development work goes on again outside the manufacturing of the assembly plant. And at the end of the day, the car needs to be sold as well, and marketing is a huge part of what vehicle manufacturing and what vehicle industry is all about. Nevertheless, this is a picture from a mini assembly line in Oxford, and it's incredible to see those cars being produced at that rate. I think it was about 50 seconds. So every 50 seconds, a car comes off the assembly line. So every 50 seconds, a new Mini arrives on roads in Europe, which is, I think, a mind-blowing rate of producing new cars. If you start thinking about the manufacturing aspect of this, just imagine there is a tiny little problem with one of these cars. For example, we were talking previously about booting an electric car up, but say with a Mini you still have to start. So there might be a little issue with the starter motor. Okay, you can solve it, but by the time you solve that problem, every 50 seconds a faulty car has come off that manufacturing line. So it's very difficult to keep that operation running smoothly. So this is Mini, and this is, I think, the furthest away we can get from automotive industry in Latvia, because it's a huge operation with huge budgets at the first place, with so many people involved in this. So it's just something where we might end up being one day, but definitely not. Oh, sorry, this is not actually Mini. This is Range Rover. So Range Rover, this is Mini, same stuff. This is McLaren Automotive. Very expensive cars, much more expensive than Tesla, so they have to perform much better than Tesla. In many respects, they do. This is very McLaren style because it's a very sterile, clean environment, and you can see, compared to the previous picture, the work that is taking place is much more manual. So less of robots, more of people, which obviously makes the car more expensive. But this is getting closer to what we might be capable of, because it doesn't require the huge investment in all the robots you need for vehicle assembly. At the same time, it requires you to design a car for a niche application pretty much. And this picture was shown to you today already. That's a vehicle assembly line in Ventspils. So that's a company. I think the German Bulgar or Butcher, I don't know the way you pronounce it correctly in German. It's a Swiss company, yeah. So it's a Swiss company which has opened a manufacturing or an assembly plant in Latvia. I had a chance to visit it, and I was very impressed with what I saw, because I think they've implemented the assembly process in a very in the best manner possible. Basically, I saw all the proper tools of trade being used there. And I think it's a very good example, and I specifically chose this example over the ammo plant, bus assembly plant, because I think this works far better. And you can see that the mother company has invested a lot of money and a lot of their previous experience in setting up an assembly site here in Latvia, and it works beautifully, I think. As I said, they have all the proper tools of trade for organizing the incoming parts, organizing the assembly process, and it's very nice to see a group of Latvian people running the company and working on the assembly line. And they told me that they are now expanding into doing a bit of engineering as well, which is nice to see, because with no engineering department, no matter how small it might be, it's just an assembly plant which has been set up because most probably it's cheaper to do it over here. And assembly plant is pretty much what the automotive industry in Latvia is all about these days. It's the level we've certain individuals, certain companies have managed to achieve. I think it's not bad, and it's very good to see them going a bit into engineering side of things as well. And I think that builds expertise and competence for the people involved. So yeah, this is. I don't think they produce this exact model in Ventspils, but they do assemble smaller vehicles, and I think we should not underestimate that they are a big player in the automotive industry in Latvia. And just like with any automotive operation, there is lots and lots going on behind the actual assembly process. So there are parts being. I very much like the overview that Richard showed at the beginning about the different components that have the manufacturing of which don't have anything to do with vehicle assembly, but they essentially are companies to be involved in the automotive industry. So there are many ways of creating or being part of the automotive industry, and I think some of those ways have a fairly good potential to be developed here in Latvia. Another very niche vehicles that are made in Latvia are motorsport cars, so cars for racing. And so this is a car which has been manufactured in Rover, to be more precise. So the question is, what exactly makes this a car? Aside from the fact that it has 4 wheels, a roof, and so on. Well, it has a vehicle identification number. So our company is being certified to manufacture cars, manufacture vehicle chassis, and so chassis. This is a chassis. So we start with a clean sheet of paper or a clean, an empty desk, and we build the chassis, and then we assemble components in the chassis, and we create a car. And we, as a manufacturer, we are allowed to give it a vehicle identification number, which then in turn allows it to be registered for basically for taking it on the road. So you see the vehicle registration plate, which in this case is IZM is 99, but which is the typical way of registering any prototype cars in Latvia. But we do have a couple of cars which have proper full number plates, as any other car would have. It's a fairly complex process of getting your car roadworthy. And in some instances, I would say it's prohibitively difficult. And the thing is, this car has been built to comply with motorsport regulations. So this car is for rally race, so we have a rule book that the car has to comply to, and we don't have to worry about things like, we don't have to meet hundreds and hundreds of standards and satisfy many requirements that every single road-going car has to. Basically, our car gets registered because it complies to the motorsport rulebook, and the authorities in Latvia are fine to register a car like that. But if we were to manufacture anything like this, for instance, we would have to go through a very complex process of certifying all the individual components that go in the car, the entire assembly, and so on. And it is a process which is not well exercised in Latvia. So whoever gets involved in that process is fairly new to it, and there are always more questions asked than answers are given. So it's registering a car is difficult, and it's obviously differs from country to country, but in our case, in case of manufacturing cars in Latvia, it is a problem still to be solved for future needs. I will turn to another example. This is a car from Croatia. It's called Rimac, after the guy who created the company. He is actually my age, which makes me feel not that good about what I have achieved in my life, but I will try to explain why he's been able to create a car like this. I'm using this example because I think it's kind of it's the way we would build cars if we were to do it here in Latvia, and I think it's the most realistic ways of getting to low volume vehicle manufacturing here in Latvia. So a car, so chassis. In case of the rally raid car, the chassis looks like this. If we have a concept of such a sports car, and this car is electric by the way, it's very quick and very expensive car, manufactured in very low volumes in Croatia. So I need some kind of chassis for this. So it can be either a tubular chassis, like in case of our rally raid car. It can be a chassis, a metal body which has been welded from pressed panels, which is what many Jaguar and all of those companies do, or it can be a very complex composite monocoque. The design and manufacturing of which requires lots of brain power and lots of expensive machinery once again. So they have gone down the route of very similar to what we are doing with our racing car. So that car is basically, well, this core structure of the car is a space frame like this, which is fabricated on jigs. And so they do it in-house, and it's not really rocket science. We do it in Rokas, and they do it in Croatia. This bit is probably fairly. This is more complicated. And the question again arises: what do you do in-house, and what do you buy from somebody else? So they build the battery pack in-house. They assemble the battery pack in-house from individual cells. They claim that they make motors and motor controllers in-house, but I know where they are actually made, and it's not in Croatia. But what they do in-house is they bring all of these parts together, and that is a lot of integration, lots of software. Basically, the car has many controllers which can bring all of those systems together. There are 4 motors in the car. Each motor has a controller. There is a battery pack. There is a torque vectoring functionality, and obviously all the driver interface, and all of that is all of those bits are created in-house. So part of that company is physically manufacturing cars, and the other half is working on. They are basically software engineers or electrical engineers, indeed. And I think this is this is what typically comes to our mind when we think about manufacturing cars here in Latvia, because the entire process is fairly easy to comprehend. You build some kind of chassis and you put in components in that chassis. You try to get it all road legal, and then you try to sell it. And that's probably the most difficult thing, selling those cars. This car costs, I think, 1 million euros. And there is a reason why it costs so much, because the cost of developing that car are very high. I think the Rimac company now employs 150 people around there. And in one presentation, the CEO of the company said that he's trying to keep all the employees from local area. So the vast majority of people working in the company are from Croatia, which is, I think, a very good approach. And if we were to manufacture cars in Latvia, we should do the same. We should employ the young engineers and the old experienced engineers from Baltics or from Latvia. But hang on, 150 people, yeah, and in that presentation the company owner said that one of the good things about employing local people is that they are cheap. A software engineer out of university is happy to earn $1,000 per month. I don't know if it's true, but if they can be that cheap, but if they are, okay, you add tax on that income, so probably 2,000 euros per head every month, and you have 150 people, so you have 300,000 euros every month just to pay your people. And the vehicle development process is going on for 2 or 3 years at least. And so you're looking at quite a few million euros spent on people who you need to develop that car. I'm not saying that not implying that you can do away with it. It's obviously the first thing you need for developing the car are the people. But you have to appreciate the costs of hiring all of that people and paying them until the vehicle is in the design phase. And although there are so many good ideas from people in Latvia about what kind of cars or vehicles might be manufactured here, the problem typically is to attract enough workforce to work in that team and to pay them, because it's easy to get 2 or 3 enthusiastic people who can commit themselves to the idea, but the remaining 147 they will want to pay their bills and buy a car and go on holiday, so you have to pay them. So it's where do you get that money? I think this company has been successful in getting that far is because they've had access to that money, which might have something to do with okay, I'm not going to comment on where that money comes from, but I just want you to appreciate it's a huge amount of money that somebody has poured in that company, and even if they sell 10 cars a year, there is no way they can recover that initial investment. And Richard was talking about a fairly simple automotive project at the beginning. Well, it's not a simple project, but it's far more simpler than building the entire car. And we are struggling to attract funding for creating components for cars, let alone the entire car. And it's in a very large part, it's the answer to the question, why don't we build cars in Latvia? Because nobody wants to invest in this region where there is, I would say, non-existent infrastructure and very limited people who can potentially work on those projects. My last example comes from Rolls-Royce. So there is one place in the world, that's in southern England, where Rolls-Royce cars are made, and I had the chance to work there for a year as a quality engineer, and I will use this example to illustrate further how difficult this actually is. So Rolls-Royce, they are known worldwide for being luxury cars, expensive. They have their super nice features, and at the time when I was working there, they were produced at a rate of 5 a day. So this is the assembly line, as it says there. And this is another picture you can find on internet, which supposedly shows you the assembly plant. But because I've worked there, I know that this is an area which is typically not shown to the visitors of the plant, because this is a rework area. So all the cars that have come off the assembly line, and they spend about 3,000 minutes on the assembly line. They come off the line with problems, with defects. They can be just visual defects like gaps being too big, or the door being misaligned, or some small parts not being fitted correctly. So it's just a visual defect. There might be technical defects. There might be safety critical defects. If it's safety critical, it's a huge problem. It might be a water leak. So every car is tested. It can go in a water test, and water might be pouring inside the car, which is not nice, especially if you've paid 300,000 euros for the car. But as a matter of fact, cars that have been in production for 4 or 5 years, they come off the assembly line and they have to be reworked because there are problems with them. And in this rework area, remember I said a car spends about 3,000 minutes on the assembly line because it's a very manual process. And so the well-established Rolls-Royce Phantom model, which had been in manufacturing for 4 or 5 years at the time, would then spend another 600 minutes being finished so that it can be passed on to the dealer for final delivery to the customer. Just imagine the amount of problems that every car you build has and needs to be addressed. And the majority of those problems are boring. I will show you an example, and the only reason I can show you that is because this is from an old system which is not used anymore. So as a big assembly site, assembly plant, it obviously has a very complex problem-solving process, and every problem that occurs is solved initially at the team level, then it can be raised to the plant level, and if it can't be solved at the plant level, it gets escalated to the business level, and that normally means huge trouble. But this is a problem which came to the plant level problem-solving process. The entire process is long replaced by something far more modern. You see, back in the old days it was still just an Excel sheet for that problem. So somebody has picked up a problem that a bolt which is retaining the battery is loose. It was tightened to the specified torque on the assembly line, but then later at the vehicle inspection point, it was found to be loose. And it's a huge problem, and by the time we see this spreadsheet has lots of information of where it was found, how severe the problem is, description, what car, what's affected, who is sorting the problem. So, and then there are comments of how the problem-solving process is progressing, and you can see it's taking March, April, it's taking lots of time, and during this time there are more and more cars produced with that same problem. And although it's a very kind of it seems to be a very simple problem, just a bolt is loose, but it used to be tightened previously. It means that any bolt can come loose now, and it is actually a huge problem. And there are hundreds of problems like this happening all the time in every single car manufacturing operation. And the more cars you make, the more difficult it becomes to deal with these problems. So even if you make 10 a year, every single car is likely to have hundreds of issues like this, and it has nothing to do with all the clever bits that you have probably engineered in the car in the first place, like all-wheel drive and fancy user interface and so on. These are just mechanical problems that will by all means arise with any assembly that is so complex as complex as a road-going vehicle. And basically have to, what I'm trying to show is that vehicle assembly process or the vehicle manufacturing process involves so many different tasks and different operations. You need to have people who can get on top of all of these problems in the right manner. And we would say with any of these problems, in our case, they were typically put down to either a process error, so people who are physically assembling the car might have made a mistake, and you always have to allow for that. It might be a parts quality error, or it might be just an engineering fault. And you would be surprised that the car that is 4 or 5 years in manufacturing, a new design fault is picked up at that point. You would think that all of that kind of problems would be eradicated by the time you go from prototype phase into serious manufacturing. No, those problems basically prevail, and you have to be able to solve them. So it is overall a huge undertaking to manufacture cars, which I think is the right reason or the right explanation for why Latvia is currently limited to just assembling to assembly plants. But I very much hope that operations like this expands into more and more into a complete vehicle manufacturing business. And obviously none of that is relevant if you make cars in quantities of one. It's always the nicest because you probably have more problems with cars like that, but you only have to solve them once. But this is a car we made or we manufactured in Galapagos in 2014/15, and it's a very quick electric car. And I was not going to talk about it today, but obviously if you do have any questions about it, please feel free to ask me. I have hopefully covered a couple of examples of between cars manufactured in quantities of one-off and cars being manufactured every 50 seconds. I think for now, probably forever, the place of Latvia and the Baltic states is somewhere in between. We are definitely capable of supplying components to the automotive industry. We are capable of assembling cars, and hopefully with educational institutions getting better and better in the region, we can also work more on the engineering aspect of all of these vehicles. I think it's something that Baltic states are still to embrace, and an industry which is still to develop in this region, and it's kind of nice to be there at the early days. That concludes a few thoughts I wanted to share with you. Feel free to ask any questions if you have.
Some questions?
I have heard that like in Toyota they deal some other way in car production. I haven't investigated it a lot, but as I have read, they call it small batch production. So maybe you can expand on that, because it seems they are producing a lot of cars, but they have something different in production process that it's a bit different from the big companies, and that they can like try to eliminate these errors a bit faster. Maybe you can expand on that, and maybe that's an approach more a bit like more valid for Latvia. Can be.
I haven't heard about this particular approach that Toyota is using, but in general, I am aware of this being a very, very popular practice worldwide these days to seek alternative ways of organizing logistics, of making parts, of making assemblies, because that's where a lot of loss is created. From what I saw at Rolls-Royce when I was working there, my understanding is that you can only take an already existing process and kind of revise it for improving, trying to improve its efficiency, bringing the costs down, bringing the time involved down, and so on. But any process you create from scratch will always be imperfect, but you will only see those imperfections once the process is up and running. But having said that, there is a company which was set up in the United Kingdom by former McLaren Automotive and McLaren F1 designer called Gordon Murray. He's a bit of a legend. So he set up a company. It's automotive design and consultancy company, and what the product they came up with was a manufacturing process. A manufacturing process designed in a way which allows making you cars a bit differently, a bit faster, a bit cheaper, a bit more in an environmentally friendly way, and so on. And he was pitching that product to automotive manufacturers worldwide, and I think they have already signed a couple of contracts for manufacturers adopting that manufacturing process. But again, I would say it's not something you can design from scratch as a startup company. You can only design it once you've been through many imperfect processes and you know how to set up a more perfect process.
So basically you have to go through the process iterations to become better.
Yeah. And I think it's true about I don't do any software coding myself, but I see it being very similar, that you can always optimize it and come up with a better way of doing the same thing. And with the car manufacturing operation, because there are so many processes involved in that, there is a huge scope for optimizing. And in any car manufacturing site, you would constantly see teams working on monitoring where the tools are, in what sequence things are being done, because you can just shift the same things around and arrive at the same result much quicker and at a less cost.
Yes. In terms of target markets, from your experience, where two Latvian car makers are selling their products currently?
Well, it is currently, so we have, if we look, say, at the assembly site, the street sweeper assembly site in Ventspils, I understand their main market is they're exporting. It's just an assembly site here in Latvia, and the production gets exported. So if we look at cars that are made in Latvia and remain in Latvia, no, there aren't any cars like that. Having said that, there is the Ammo plant bus assembly site in Jelgava, and I think they've built quite a few buses for local for Jelgava and Jurmala. But whatever happens in Latvia seems to me to be more niche, a very, very niche market. It can be the darts car for, who was who's the celebrity who bought it?
Kim Kardashian.
Yeah. So something like that, or a car we make. It is for some of the cars we manufactured here in Latvia. They've ended up being in fairly exotic destinations for racing applications. So yeah, I think it's either assembly for export or local use by municipalities, or niche cars like this. And I believe that niche cars is the kind of the concept we can develop in Latvia, which is why I was keen to use this Rimac as an example, because that's exactly what they've done. And it's something you can do with from a fairly small operation. You don't need thousands of people involved in it, and you can make cars in small quantities, stay on top of their quality. Yeah, they will be expensive, but if it's the right product, you can sell expensive things.
How long did it take to produce that sport car? And how much it cost?
This year?
No, yours.
Well, you have. It's always difficult to tell exactly how long it takes, because lots of we can only build the car in the time we do it, because we have the past experience from the previous projects. But putting that aside, this car was designed and built in 9 months' time. That includes designing and fabricating the tubular chassis. The entire bodywork is also designed and manufactured in-house. It's composite panels that simply wrap that tubular chassis. All the cars we build, we've built 14 cars for rally race and a couple of cars like this. They all seem to take about 9 months. And the same goes for cost. You see, we are very, very small operations, and some of us contribute to these projects without being paid. It's kind of an individual challenge that people take up. And then we do need a couple of paid people working there as well. And if we were to sell this car to somebody, say if Toyota came along and said that they want to take this car racing, they put a Toyota badge on it and say this is a Toyota prototype, fastest, the quickest electric car in a certain race, and it will win. We would probably ask them 1 million euros. They would be happy, we would be happy. The actual cost of making such a car for us is about 300,000 euros, and that excludes the main brain power behind the project. So they are fairly expensive cars.
Yeah, in terms of quality, you showed us the typical examples of errors and reworks. From your experience, again, the average net loss due to those reworks in companies, for example, like Rolls-Royce, how much it is on average?
Well, it would be difficult to put some kind of a figure against it, cost-wise, like euros or dollars. But I think what matters, what gives you a good indication, is the time spent on those reworks. So if the car was meant to be built in 3,000 minutes, but it takes 3,600 minutes, it means, excuse me, it means it takes 20% more time to build that car than it's been costed. Plus, if there are any damaged parts, plus you need people who work on those problems, so all the engineers, problem solvers. So it is a significant impact on the cost of the car, but obviously the person who ends up driving that car pays for it at some point. That's all included in the price.
Thanks.
Nothing's free, right?
So So it's very, very kind of popular now, or hot, that every country makes its own sport electric car, like Malaysians just did it, those guys did it. So how do you feel about, have you thought about it that before that Rover service stands could produce some similar thing based on your racing approved technology? Move to that?
A car like this?
Yeah.
What's the point?
I don't know.
No, neither do I. To sell it.
Yeah, it's a good question. I don't know what business models have those Malaysian guys or other countries.
I kind of try to explain the complexity that goes into making a car like this, and it's such a huge. Well, you have to believe in. Well, you either have to have access to unlimited funding, as some people do in the world. I think you see many of those cars coming from companies that are in a very strong financial position. The Geneva Auto Show is on now, and there are many new cars launched, including, I just read an article about a car launched yesterday from an Italian company, which happens to be owned by Lamborghini, I think, or somebody on those lines. So clearly, it's a very exciting car they've produced. It's a very exciting concept they are showing to the public, but they have the financial means to kind of support such a project. It's a nice way to keep their engineers entertained and busy, to work into some or to expand their horizons. And we cannot afford it. We have to, if we were to do a project like that, we have to have a business plan behind it, and we need somebody to buy into that business plan. And I kind of try to illustrate the amount of money which you do need to create the first prototype of a car which is as appealing as this one.
So our country got 3 oligarchs or something like that. Just thinking that some of them could launch this kind of national-based project. I think it's not very interested in such kind of thing.
These cars are always a nice thing for showing off.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that the business behind them is very difficult, and we should more realistically look at things like street sweepers. Think about manufacturing them in that way.
Well, that's called currents, switch, kind of stuff. How did they manage such kind of business plan, or?
I don't know the exact details of how their company went from
zero to hero.
Yeah, from zero to hero. But I'm more than sure that access to funding and obviously a strong engineering team played a very important role in that story.
Yeah. We need to sell at least $1 million cars and ask for prepaid and start moving on. That's it.
Kickstarter.
No, it's not Kickstarter. It's the only one, I don't know, maybe in shape or something.
Yeah, and I was told that selling these cars the sales of these cars are not as high as they were expected, probably because of the price tag.
Yeah,
also because of brand, I think.
Brand.
It looks cool,
Yeah.
but nobody knows what it is, and
Exactly.
nobody is assured that, for example, they can meet their customer service requirements, and the general service requirements of these cars, because
it's from somewhere in Croatia.
I think it is a very valid point, because it's not from California, and the car might be technically superior to Tesla, but it's from Croatia, and so a car made in Latvia to anybody in the United States is.
They don't even know where that is. So
Exactly.
it's probably somewhere on planet Earth. That's it.
So this is. I don't think this is the first think we should jump to when trying to manufacture cars. And that is probably the reason why we don't do it.
So how viable do you think is the idea to convince Tesla to make their Model 3 here in Latvia, let's say?
Or to assemble it?
Yeah, assemble it.
I think
Because they close Russia and that region.
I think an organization that big will make all of these decisions mostly on cost basis, and obviously they do need the people, and logistics have to work out as well. I think the idea could be pitched to them, and it would be probably one of 100 options that they would evaluate. I don't think Latvia has anything in any particular qualities that make it outstanding place for being a manufacturing site. It's one of many. If it was pitched correctly and financially attractive, then yeah, why not?
Geographical location probably good for logistics, and the closest Scandinavian market, but our wages are much lower than that, and we get a huge Russian market with bright engineers, probably fleeing from
just no direct boats from United States to Baltic Sea.
But it's very close, by the way.
Yeah, but it's an extra lane.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the reason why the builders can first plant in Tilburg.
Yeah, and it totally makes sense.
By the way, the Tilburg is, if you see the Netherlands map, it's not on the coast side. It's somewhere middle of the country, by the way. It's a huge distance by the road, carrying all the parts from ships. This is a factory, by the way.
Well, we have to bear in mind that Tesla is only one of the cars being made in the world. There are, I think the number is 80 million cars every year. So there are 800 million cars on the roads, and every year 80 million new cars are made. And we don't have to focus on Tesla as the only option. Of course. And we might look at other options at the first place, get them here, and that might create an environment which will eventually lead into Tesla being interested in that as well.
Are there any signs that other automakers are interested in production software as well?
Yeah, I think that Swiss company making the street sweepers is a very good example of a global company making a decision to build their assembly plant in Latvia, and the Ventspils Freeport Authority is offering they're offering good financial benefits in return, and if there are more economic incentives like that being offered to car manufacturers, why not? There is certainly potential for them to choose Latvia.
Do you think our investment agents are pushing hard enough to?
No. They are trying, but I think you have to be. I would say they lack insider knowledge of how that industry operates and how you should present yourself, how you should pitch yourself. I think there is, just like with any industry, you have to know how it operates and who is who and how things work. You can't just create a 3-minute video, show it to somebody and hope that they will come and start manufacturing their goods in your country.
So, any more questions?
Maybe, what do you think about Latvia going like the Honda style, I should say? So start from manufacturing components like engines. If I remember correctly, they started in like early 50s, manufacturing just engines that were put on the bicycles that someone else has manufactured. And then from there, they evolved to like creating their own, designing their own frames, and the cars came in 70s probably. So how do you think this is the alternative path for Latvia?
It's the best one, the most realistic one. There Richard's already showed examples of companies making parts for cars in Latvia, and we're kind of trying to do the same. Okay, this car is a racing car we build, but as a business, what we do is we have designed and we've now started manufacturing electric motor controllers. So it's the brain of the electric car that we manufacture in Latvia, and we sell them to. Well, the Croatian car does not use our controller, but technically it could.
Mm-hmm.
So on my job list, I do have a task of seeing them to try to get our controller in their cars, because we think that our proposition is better than what they currently use.
Mm-hmm.
And supplying one component will then turn into manufacturing and supplying two components, and then the chassis, and then the whole car. Yeah, I think it's definitely the way to grow from a technology startup into a car manufacturing company.
So in terms of controller, it's completely yours. It's like yours design, your brand, and you develop your own like sales channels through which you can sell to other companies to use in their cars.
Well, it is a very neat. No, we do already have the product. It's targeted at very niche applications. So, for example, cars like this, there are quite a few low-volume car manufacturers worldwide where our controller could be used. So the sales channels are very personal. Yes. But it's we do kind of we specifically chose this approach because we see much more future in manufacturing components for cars as opposed to entire cars.
So what are plans about this year's Bike Week? Do you have any potential still get?
So last year, this car, the 1 megawatt electric racing car, became the first ever electric car to win the Pikes Peak International Fuel Climb. This year, the event is celebrating the 100th